I've been with Diego for nearly 3 years, and we've shared an apartment for about 15 months. Things felt solid between us, or so I believed, until my birthday last week when my world turned upside down. I'm someone who gets ridiculously excited about birthdays. Mine, yours, anyone's, honestly. I adore the whole vibe, the cake, the surprises, the joy. Diego knew this about me, and for our first 2 years, he made my birthday special. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful gestures that showed he cared. This year, turning 21 felt like a milestone. I'd been hinting about wanting something unforgettable, maybe a weekend getaway, or even a fancy dinner somewhere other than our usual takeout joints. Diego seemed into it, promising a big surprise for my day. But the week before my birthday, I started noticing odd behavior. He was secretive with his phone, flinching when I entered the room. He'd take calls on the balcony, even in the rain, which was totally unlike him. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was overthinking. 2 days before my birthday, I borrowed his laptop, something we'd always shared, to shop online while mine was in the shop. A browser tab was open to a jewelry store, showing a confirmation for a custom ring fitting. My stomach flipped. I know it was wrong, but I dug into his search history and found weeks of searches for proposal tips and how to plan a proposal. In that moment, I felt foolish for thinking, he's proposing to me on my birthday. I shut the laptop and tried to act normal, but I was buzzing with anticipation. On my birthday morning, Diego was distant. He gave me a quick peck, mumbled, "Happy birthday, love," and said he had to run errands for my surprise later. His weird vibe made me uneasy, but I clung to the proposal fantasy. While he was out, his mom called to wish me happy birthday. She's always been kind, and we get along great. During our chat, she dropped a bomb, asking if I'd heard about Luis's girlfriend, Sofia. Luis is Diego's best friend since high school. I played dumb, and she went on about how Sofia must be thrilled about the proposal and how she couldn't wait to see the ring Diego helped Luis pick out. My heart sank. His mom realized her slip and switched topics, but the truth hit hard. Diego wasn't planning my proposal. He was helping Luis propose to Sofia. The ring, the searches, the secrecy. It was all for them, but that wasn't the worst of it. The pieces started falling into place. The sneaky calls, the late nights with Luis, the shifty behavior. Something felt wrong. Against my better judgment, I checked Diego's phone while he was in the shower. What I found shattered me. The messages revealed Diego wasn't just helping Luis. He was planning to propose to Sofia himself. Sofia, Luis's girlfriend, was also Diego's secret girlfriend. They'd planned to use my birthday as a cover for his proposal, knowing I'd never suspect it. The texts went back months. Diego and Sofia had been sneaking around behind both Luis's and my backs. They planned to tell us after the engagement, with Diego intending to move out slowly while I was at classes. Sofia gushed about the ring they'd chosen together. When Diego got out of the shower, he acted like everything was fine, telling me to get ready for my special surprise. I played along, nodding while my heart broke. He left again, saying he'd be back soon. I knew where he was headed. To propose to Sofia on my birthday, in my home. I couldn't just wait for him to return with some fake story. I had to act. So I grabbed my keys and... First update, if you read my last post, you know I discovered in the most gut-wrenching way that Diego, my boyfriend of 3 years, was planning to propose to Sofia, his secret girlfriend, on my 21st birthday, using me as a cover while living in my apartment. I went from thinking he was about to propose to me to realizing I was the other woman in my own life. Here's what happened next. When I grabbed my keys and stormed out, I was shaking with rage and had no clear plan. I must have startled the neighbor's dog as I bolted down the stairs. It was pouring rain, the kind that blurs everything. I sat in my car for a few minutes, gripping my phone, trying to figure out where Diego would take Sofia for this betrayal. Diego's never been good at covering his tracks. He leaves apps open, forgets to clear his location history, or tells slightly different stories to different people. I recalled him mentioning a park with an odd fountain sculpture during a call with Luis last week, probably a cover story. I also remembered Sofia's private Instagram post about loving the view from the bridge at Crestwood Park. Yes, I snooped. You would too. So I took a gamble. If Diego wanted this proposal to be special, he'd pick a place Sofia loved. And if he was bold enough to use my birthday as a distraction, he was probably careless enough to choose somewhere public. I drove to Crestwood Park, a 20-minute trip through traffic, my mind racing with what I'd say, but also doubting if I could confront them. I kept replaying those texts. She'll never guess, and it's the perfect day. The anger grew, but so did the fear. What if I was wrong and looked unhinged? What if they were elsewhere and I missed my chance? It was still raining when I parked near the park entrance. I scrolled through my phone, checking the screenshots I'd taken of Diego's messages. Yes, I'm not an idiot. I saved everything. For any clue about timing or location. He'd mentioned afternoon, and it was already 12:45. I got out, hoodie up, shoes soaking, feeling like some amateur detective. I just wanted to catch him in the act. The park was quiet thanks to the weather with only a few people around. I almost missed them, but then I heard Sophia's loud, performative giggle. There they were, by the fountain. Diego in his fancy jacket and the scarf I got him, Sophia in a flowy dress already stained with mud. She looked like she was auditioning for a romance movie. He was holding a small velvet box. It was happening. I didn't think. I just walked up. I wish I could say I had a killer speech ready, but it all spilled out in a rush. So this is my big surprise? You couldn't even wait a day to ruin my life. Sophia's face drained of color, and Diego had the nerve to look irritated, like I was interrupting his moment. He tried to play it off with, "What are you doing here?" But I cut him off. I stayed calm at first, laying out everything. The jewelry tab, the messages, his mom's accidental reveal. I told Sophia how they planned to break the news to Luis and me after the engagement, how Diego used my birthday as a shield, how Luis was in the dark too. Sophia shook her head, insisting I was mistaken, while Diego looked like he wanted to vanish. Then the argument escalated. I kept my voice steady, cold, almost unfamiliar to me. Diego claimed I was blowing it out of proportion, that I'd misunderstood. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound, and asked if the texts were fake, if Sophia was just his ring advisor. Sophia started crying, whining that I was ruining her moment, like I was the villain for exposing their betrayal. People were staring now. Diego tried to pull me aside, physically, as if he could just nudge me out of the picture. I pushed back, not hard, but enough. He said I was making a fool of myself and should leave before I regretted it. That's when I snapped. I told him the only thing I regretted was spending 3 years on a cheating liar who thought I was too naive to notice his double life. Sophia claimed it just happened, that Diego told her we were done. Total nonsense. I asked, if we were done, why was he still living with me, sleeping in my bed, using my stuff? She had no answer. Then Luis showed up. He must have gotten a text from Diego because he looked confused, then horrified. He demanded to know what was happening. I told him straight. Your best friend and your girlfriend are together, and they were about to get engaged on my birthday. Luis didn't believe it at first. I showed him the screenshots, my hands trembling. Sophia tried to snatch my phone, but I yanked it back. Luis stared at Diego, then Sophia, and asked, "Is this real?" Diego just looked at the ground. Sophia begged Luis to hear her out privately, saying she loved him, but he shut her down with a quiet, "Don't." The next 10 minutes were chaos. Luis shouted at Diego, who kept saying it wasn't that simple. Sophia sobbed, pleading for forgiveness. I stood there, watching it all collapse, feeling both numb and strangely triumphant. At least the truth was out. A jogger stopped to gawk. A mom with a kid shot us a glare. Ray tried to lunge at Diego, but I stepped in, not to protect Diego, but to avoid a bigger mess. Diego muttered something about crazy drama queens, and I let him have it, saying if he ever came near my place again, I'd call the cops, and he'd be lucky to get his stuff from the trash. Sophia collapsed on the grass, crying. Diego slammed the ring box shut and stormed off. Luis walked away without another word. I almost felt sorry for Sophia, but not enough to care. I drove home, soaked and shaking, but clear-headed. I called my mom, who could tell from my voice something was wrong. I told her the gist, and she wanted to come over, but I said I needed space. She promised to check in later. Back home, I locked the door and started packing Diego's things. His shirts, his sneakers, his charger, all the clutter he left around. I piled it by the door, blasting music to drown out the silence. Diego showed up an hour later, banging on the door, demanding to talk like grown-ups. I left him in the hall. He kept at it until a neighbor, a dad with a toddler, told him to quiet down. Diego snapped at him, but the neighbor threatened to call the manager. Diego switched to softer knocking, trying to guilt me. I cracked the door and told him to take his stuff or I'd call the cops. He tried to push inside, but I blocked him, saying his mistakes weren't my problem anymore. He grabbed his bags, cursing, and left. I called my mom again, and she came over with groceries. We didn't talk much about Diego. She just said she was proud of me for standing my ground. She offered her place, but I wanted to stay in my apartment, to make it mine again. Later, Luis texted me a thumbs up and, "Thanks for telling me, I had no clue." I replied, "Same." Sophia stayed silent, but her Instagram was full of moody song quotes. Diego's mom called again, but I ignored her voicemails. I just wanted to breathe. The fallout, bills, the lease, friends taking sides, was looming, but that's for another day. I'll update when I know more. Second update. I thought after confronting Diego and Sophia at the park, things might settle, but nope, life had more chaos in store. I woke up the next day feeling like I'd been hit by a bus, sprawled on the couch amid Diego's old jackets and a bag of chips my mom left. My phone was buzzing with texts from random high school friends asking if I was okay, plus more missed calls from Diego's mom. My mom texted at 7:30 saying she'd swing by after her gym class to help with the mess and maybe organize the chaos. She also said, "Don't toss anything until I see it." Classic mom. I spent the morning wandering the apartment, picking up Diego's stuff, his earphones, a mug with his initials he never used, random junk that made the place feel crowded. By 10, my mom arrived, post-workout, toting a bag of cleaning supplies and a binder labeled, "Crisis Plan." I didn't ask. She scanned the pile by the door and said, "This is it? Where's his tech? His papers?" I told her I wasn't ready to play sleuth. She sighed and started a list, muttering about tracking warranties. She's a lot, but I love her for it. We were debating whether to keep the TV. I bought it, but he paid for the remote. Petty, I know. When someone knocked. Not Diego's angry pounding, but a timid tap. I peeked and saw Diego with his mom, who looked ready to storm a castle. My stomach sank. My mom gestured to open the door, but I hesitated. Finally, I cracked it enough to show I meant business. Diego launched into a speech about wanting his stuff without drama. His mom cut in, asking my mom if we could handle this like adults. My mom, never one to back down, let them in but set rules. No yelling, no grabbing, no nonsense. We squeezed into the living room, which felt tiny with 4 people and a pile of Diego's junk. My mom perched on the couch arm, staring me down like, "Your call." Diego stood by the window, avoiding my eyes. His mom sat stiffly, gripping her phone like she was recording for court. The silence was heavy until my mom asked what Diego wanted and if he'd leave me to clean up his mess. Diego muttered he just wanted his personal stuff and wouldn't make it harder than it needs to be. His mom added she hoped we'd all be fair. My mom raised an eyebrow and said, "Define fair." Diego listed his stuff: clothes, shoes, tablet, books, the TV. My mom shut down the TV claim, pulling out a receipt showing she'd paid half as a housewarming gift. Diego's mom argued they'd split it, but my mom had proof. Diego then tried claiming my grandma's kitchen tools and my dad's gifted speaker. My mom shut that down too. It felt like he was trying to stir up trouble. Eventually, he packed his stuff into bags my mom handed him to keep it quiet for the neighbors. Things were tense but civil, until his mom started in about how I'd hurt Diego and should think twice before publicly shaming people. I snapped that maybe Diego should have thought twice before betraying everyone. My mom snorted, which didn't help. That's when it got heated. Diego's mom raised her voice, ranting about kids today and their lack of respect. My mom fired back that maybe Diego needed better lessons in loyalty. They went back and forth about parenting and responsibility, while I stood there holding Diego's socks, trying not to lose it. Diego tried to calm things, but my mom's glare shut him up. Eventually, she said, "Let's wrap this up before the neighbors call the cops." That worked. Diego packed his stuff, still trying to say goodbye to me. I ignored him. His mom said she hoped I'd mature from this. My mom escorted them out. After my mom flopped on the couch saying, "What a mess." She pulled out her binder, listing lease and bill changes. She called my dad on speaker, who ranted about teaching that kid a lesson. Then, Sophia's mom called my mom. Apparently, they'd met at a friend's party. She asked if I'd forgive Sophia, who was struggling, and wanted to apologize. My mom told her Sophia needed to sort her own life, and I didn't owe anyone a conversation. Sophia's mom pushed, saying everyone makes mistakes, but my mom countered, "Mistakes don't destroy people like this." They agreed to stay out of each other's way. My group chat buzzed with friends checking in and asking about the park drama. One friend, Lila, DM'd that Diego was telling people I was unstable and that's why he left. I asked if anyone bought it. She said most were just confused. The next few days were a haze. My mom stayed 2 nights, helping with locks, Wi-Fi, and landlord texts. She even called some friends to see who was loyal, which was mortifying. I apologized to Lila, who laughed it off. My mom also tried to get my dad to confront Diego, but he wisely refused. I ran into Diego in the lobby days later, carrying a box with his mom. She told me to be careful who you trust. I ignored her. Later, Diego tried to talk by the elevator, saying he didn't want to end things like this. I told him this was exactly how it needed to end. He left without a fight. Life started feeling normal again, arguing with my mom over TV shows, laughing at her old breakup stories. But the drama wasn't done. The building manager called about noise complaints, and Diego's mom claiming I damaged his stuff. I laughed. She meant the tacky lamp I hated. I left it at the front desk with a note. "Take your lamp. Final update." I thought after the parent showdown and Diego moving out, I could finally breathe. I pictured moping with instant noodles and endless Netflix. But the universe had other plans. Diego didn't just fade away, and the fallout kept coming. Bills started piling up. Diego hadn't updated his address, so his share of utilities kept hitting me. The landlord sent a notice about a late gas bill, and I had to dig up old PayPal records to show Diego owed half. He ignored my texts about it, but had time to post "new chapter" captions on social media. Then I noticed weird things in the apartment. Keys misplaced, a window unlatched. I got paranoid, thinking Diego had a spare key. One night, I found his old cap on my table, like a taunt. I texted him, and he played dumb. "Maybe you forgot it was there, right?" I told my mom, who went full FBI mode, insisting on checking locks and installing a door alarm that beeped constantly. She wanted me to stay at her place, but I refused. I wasn't letting Diego push me out. The landlord called about a walkthrough because Diego's mom claimed I was trashing shared property. I was floored. What property? His mugs? I invited the landlord over, showing him everything. He took notes, said Diego's mom had been hounding him, and confirmed there was no damage. My mom called Diego's mom, threatening a restraining order if she didn't stop. Diego's mom texted me, saying I was destroying her son. I replied that Diego did that himself. Then Sophia DM'd me, asking to talk, saying Diego had lied to her too. My mom said to ignore her, but I was curious. We met at a crowded cafe. Sophia looked drained, admitting Diego told her I was a clingy ex who forced him out. I laughed. It was absurd. We talked for an hour, piecing together his lies. Sophia said she felt ashamed and had avoided me. I told her Diego would never be who she wanted. She said she was moving home and left. It wasn't closure, but it helped. I started reclaiming the apartment. New paint, a cozy rug, string lights. My mom helped, joking that green walls would soothe my soul. Diego's bills finally got paid after my mom's relentless emails. The landlord confirmed no property issues and Diego's complaints were dropped. Luis texted saying he was moving for a job and had cut off Diego and Sophia. I wished him well. Sophia stayed quiet, her social media full of growth posts. My friends rallied. Lila threw a girls' night with wine and karaoke. It felt like home again. The lease was tricky. Removing Diego's name cost a fee, but I covered rent alone, picking up extra work. I started pottery classes, something Diego mocked. My first mug was a mess, but I kept it as a reminder I could create again. I journaled, processing it all. Diego emailed months later saying he'd grown and wanted to be civil. I didn't reply. My mom sent a laughing emoji when I showed her. Now, the apartment's mine. I got a kitten, Biscuit, who wrecks everything but makes me smile. I'm talking to someone new, no rush, just light. The betrayal showed me I'm tougher than I thought. I didn't break, and I rebuilt. Trust your instincts, keep proof, and don't let anyone dim your light. Thanks for reading. I hope the next part's less wild.